Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Casual Conversation. I'm Joe Salzone. My guest is someone that I've known for almost as long as I've been around the city of Auburn. He's a former state trooper, longtime former sheriff of Cayuga County, and now, somehow, he's become the chairman of the Cayuga, he's laughing now, the chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, Dave Gould. Dave,
Joe,
good to see you.
Great to see you again.
If I had betted years ago on your career trajectory as the sheriff, I don't know if I would have landed on legislator and then chairman of the legislature. How did this happen?
I know I wouldn't have landed on it. I would have bet I'd have been in jail. I honestly don't know. I always wanted to be a legislator when I was department head as sheriff. I came to all the meetings and I thought I could make a difference, so I ran for legislature. And I got, once I got elected, we had caucuses, our Republican caucuses, and they chose me as the chair.
I remember all the years that we would talk once a month on the radio. Mm-hmm. You and I would discuss off the air generally just the packed schedule that you had as sheriff. Mm-hmm. Has that changed?
No, God, it's gotten worse. I mean, we have nights that I come in at 6:30 every morning, every day, 5 days a week I come in. And at nights like this week, we got 2 meetings tomorrow night, 2 meetings Wednesday night, meeting Thursday night. We got a special ledge meeting tomorrow night again. So I don't get out of here some nights till 8:39. So they're longer days than they were out there as sheriff. But, I feel that I'm accomplishing something. I've got 14 other legislators. I don't know if you knew that we changed our rules, that we're going down to 11.
Yep.
You did know that?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a complete change.
Yeah.
It's first time ever in this county. I know that Tim Lattimore, a longtime legislator, I'm sure you know him, mm-hmm. wanted to do this years and years and years ago. And finally we decided that we were going to take a vote, and we left it up to the taxpayers, the voters, and they decided very closely, though. It was only like 30 votes difference between staying at 15 or going to 11.
Did that change the weighted system in the county?
There's no more weighted. That's the reason we did it. Everybody's got an equal vote now. They figured it out census-wise. We got 5% leeway either way. Some people have 2 townships, some have 3, but the population is within 5%. That's why we changed it.
You've been around Auburn and Cayuga County for decades. We'll say we won't outrate, but we'll just say decades, for a long period of time.
Yes, I have.
Let's say. What's the state now of Cayuga County? How are things? We're a little maybe out of the COVID bubble. How are things going?
Thank God we are out of that, because it was serious here in Central New York. You know that.
Yep.
But I think things are going great. We've got some really good grants. We got some great new department heads and some great older department heads. And we're really, when Micron announced, actually a week before Micron announced in Syracuse, I got a bunch of, legislators together, not a bunch, I got 4 of them, 2 from the minority, 2 from the majority, and a lot of business department, a lot of business people. And I wanted to see how we can bring business into the county. 1 week later to the day, they announced Micron. So we were a week ahead of everybody. But Micron's changed everything. I've got a great committee that I formed with Micron, 4 subcommittees: energy, housing, employment, and planning. And we've been working for 6 months now, ever since they announced it in Syracuse. And all the subcommittees meet constantly. We've got great people on them. We're ahead of the curve, trying to get some business to come in, because there's not going to be enough room in Onondaga County. We all know that.
Right.
So there are going to be some people, some businesses, some companies are going to be in the surrounding counties, and we're hoping we get more than our share.
What's the biggest challenge Cayuga County faces in the next couple of years?
I think is hiring. I mean, we're not unique, and you know that as well as I do. It isn't just Central New York State. It's the whole country, and probably it's the whole world. Nobody wants. I shouldn't say this. I don't want to say nobody wants to work anymore. Everybody, you hear that on the news. You hear it. I don't want to say that. Everybody gets a better choice now, because there's so many openings that the employees can pick and choose where they want. It used to be, you look for a job, you couldn't find one.
Right.
Now we got openings. Everybody has openings, and we can't find the people to fill them.
What's your message to younger people who might be entering the workforce for the first time, and they're entering a world different even than the world that we had 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a thing that goes back decades. I'm not sure, Joe, but people, and I was the same way when I was young. When I started, I went in the military, you know that.
Yep.
Got out of the military, took the troopers test, and started right with the troopers in 1970. But nowadays, everybody, the young kids that are starting, no matter what job, they're thinking about their next paycheck, what they can do with it. They're not thinking about their future and their retirement. Cuyahoga County's got a great retirement system. And so do a lot of the other places. But people, the young kids aren't thinking about that, and I probably didn't either. So I don't hold that against them. But time flies, and you know that. It's flown so much from me so quickly. But I think you got to try to find a job that's got a great retirement system.
You know, when we first met, I was in my late 20s.
Oh, my God.
That was a dozen years
And
ago.
now you're almost 60.
If I feel it. Yeah. We're going to play that game, I see.
No. You're going to win that one.
We'll see this. If it's a contest, maybe. How has Cayuga County changed from when you were growing up? I mean, obviously,
Well,
shops
that's a good
are
question.
done.
And I've lived here my whole life,
Sure.
except for when I was overseas in the service and all over the state in the state police. But I don't think it's changed an awful lot. We have families, and especially our farm families, who are the best in the state, the best in the country, and their generations are staying here and running the farms, which is great. The country can't live without farms and, farm products. So I think that's one thing that hasn't changed is I love to see farm property handed down from generation to generation. And I've known a lot of them where the parents would retire and the kids would take over the farm and run it. And there's nothing probably harder in the world. My grandfather was a farmer, and there's nothing harder in the world than getting up at 4 o'clock every day and working until 9 o'clock every night.
I can relate.
Yeah, and tough work. I remember baling hay when you didn't have these automatic things. You threw them up on the tractor. But those days have changed naturally. But I think that's one great thing about our county is people, especially the senior citizens, are not leaving. Some of them go to Florida naturally, but they come back in the summer. But we got to really worry about our young kids, and it's not just here; it's all over, leaving state and finding jobs other places. We really got to, that's why I'm so big on Micron and what that can bring in. It can bring in so much industry where we can hopefully get our kids to stay here and live here and raise families here and go to school here. So that's what I'm hoping.
I've heard for years people say, there's nothing for me here. There's no job for me here. There's no career for me here. What do you say to somebody who will say, Mr. Gould, I want to work, I want to start a life, but I can't do it here?
Well, again, that's just what I said a couple of minutes ago is we need to bring in industry in. We need to keep our smart people working and staying here and going to our great schools. Hell, within 45 minutes, we got Syracuse University, Cornell, Ithaca, Colgate. I mean, we got some good, Hobart. We got some great colleges within an hour drive of Cuyahoga County, the best in the country. We need to keep our kids here. We need to try to keep them to go to local schools. My daughter went to Ithaca, and I'm glad of that. It was 45 minutes every time I wanted to see her. But we need to keep them here, and to keep them here, they need to find specific jobs. It isn't all of these people are going to be, working on their dad's farms. We need to have a lot of industry, and I'm very hopeful that Micron's going to bring these in. Not just for Cuyahoga County, surrounding counties, Cortland, Oswego, Ithaca, Tompkins, Wayne, Seneca. I think all of us are going to benefit from Micron. I'm really confident of that.
Can we talk about crime?
We can always talk about crime.
We can always talk about crime.
Because it's not going away.
It's not going away. You were the sheriff for how many years?
12.
12 years. Crime seems to, or at least there's a perception that we have become more violent as a culture. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I started this. I was in 35 years in the state police before I became sheriff. And then I was a DA's investigator for a couple of years. So it was 50 years as a police officer, and it's certainly changed. But one reason it's so bad right now is the laws that we have in New York State. It's really this bail reform law is the worst thing that's ever happened to this state. I mean, other people will disagree with me, and that's why we live in a free country. But let me tell you, every time you look at the paper and you see something, you watch the news, somebody that's committing the crime has already committed that crime and is out on bail. No bail is what I mean.
Right.
They're out with no bail. And you can't run a society with people committing crimes, the same people, and then going in front of the judge says, my hands are tied. I can't put you in jail. I have no authority anymore. You're out. You're gone. And that person goes out and robs a bank, does it again, beats somebody up, throws somebody on the tracks, whatever it may be, train tracks, subway. You see it all the time. And it can be prevented. A lot of it can be prevented with changing our laws. And that's one reason that the state budget is late. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping the governor is going to change some of these laws that they enacted, 3-4 years ago now, which are terrible.
Is there room for improvement in criminal justice? Is there room for reform?
Sure there is, absolutely.
Where?
Absolutely. It has to start with the mental illness in this country, in this world, not just this country, in this world. I've said it for I don't know how many years now. Nobody wanted to listen to me when we closed Willard. Do you know what Willard was?
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Marcy, our state hospitals, mental health hospitals, where people needed to be locked in and receive mental health. When they closed those, they closed them for a good reason. They wanted these people to be with their families, which is the best thing in the world.
Sure.
But some of them are not capable. They have a mental illness where you can't depend on them to go to a mental health clinic every day, get their medicine, and then go home and be fine, because they don't take their medicine. No one's there to help them. No one's there to talk to them 24 hours a day. We need to open up some mental health facilities. Not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to help these people that need our help. That's why a lot of these crimes are being committed.
Right.
There's so many people in this country now, and again, I say this world, that have mental health problems, legitimate mental health problems. There's so many people that do not believe that they're legitimate health problems. I happen to believe that they are really legitimate health problems.
So those are state and national concerns. What can you do locally as the chairman of the legislature to make Cayuga County as safe as humanly possible?
Well, our jail, our new sheriff out, not new, he took my place, but Brian Skank is at the jail, been the sheriff for 5 years now. He's doing a great job. We have a lot of mandated health facilities now, mental health in the jail. As people get out, they time out, whatever they may be, out on bail. We have, therapists that help them. Cayuga Counseling has a therapist out there full-time that help. We're trying to maybe get another one. This is what the jails need. The jails need to help people with a mental illness. When they commit a crime and they go to jail, if they commit that right crime, where the judge sends them to jail, a lot of those people have a mental illness. What are they going to do in jail? You need to get them help in jail. And we're doing that in Cayuga County. We're working closely with our mental health director, Lauren Walsh, who is just a great lady. She does a great job with mental health. We're trying to expand that. Everything needs to be expanded when it comes to mental health, because it is a disease. It's not an illness. It's a disease. There is a difference.
There's a rift that exists between certain segments of the population, marginalized groups, and law enforcement. Mm-hmm. They feel that their interests are not being represented adequately. How do you begin to bridge those differences between police as a whole? I don't necessarily mean the Auburn Police Department or the Sheriff's Office, just law enforcement as an entity, and groups that say they don't feel safe around them.
Some of those people that say that are mimicking other people. It's not so bad here, thank God. We're in a small community, it's not so bad. I can't imagine what it is like in Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, New York, Chicago, LA. I can't even imagine what it's like. You got to start with trust. If young people are being brought up, and I'm talking about young, I'm talking about grade school kids, are being brought up and their parents say, stay away from the police, they're bad, they're going to harm you, they're going to take you away from us, that we all know that's bad. But that's the way some kids are being raised nowadays. Whether it's on purpose or whether that parent had a bad run-in with a bad cop, and there is, we know that. There's a very, very, very minute one, degree of them, but there is some. We need to get trust back in these young kids. We need to have them like the old days. If you were lost, you go to a police officer. You don't run away from a police officer. We need to get that trust back with these young kids. It's generational. We need to change one generation, and that generation will start to change the next.
Let's shift gears a bit. We've joked over the years about how busy your schedule is. What drives you? What motivates you to seemingly always have a full plate?
Well, it was my parents, to be honest with you. And a lot of people will say that when they grow up. But my mother was born with polio. And my dad was a state engineer. He graduated from SU, he was an engineer. And Mom and Dad would go out with their friends every March for March of Dimes. I'll never forget it. Them and their friends, that's when you went out door to door and you collected dimes, not dollars, dimes. And I used to go out with them, and it just impressed me so much that's why I volunteer for all these committees. I'm on over 30 right now. That's what convinced me that you have to give back no matter how hard it is. Mom walked with a limp her whole life, and she never complained one bit about it. But she gave back to people so our polio would be eradicated, and it was. And I know to this day, those dimes help eradicate polio.
Right.
That's the way I feel.
When do you retire? And what do you do in retirement?
Well, my last day of chairman for the legislature is going to be December 31st. I chose not to run this next time, so that'll be over. Whether I'll run in the future, I don't know. But I'm going to stay on my committees. They've asked me to be on a few more important boards than I am, several more. I'm on the board at the hospital. I'm on board of trustees at the hospital. And there's a few other important boards that I would like to be on, think about being on. That is the only way. I learn something every day, Joe, on these boards. You go to these different agencies and you sit on, whether it be a board of trustees, a regular committee. I learn something every day. I learn something every day here. I mean, I'm only 61 and I learn something every day.
60, is that 61 in dog years?
Yeah, I'm serious though. I love to learn. You learn from people, and the day I die, I'll still be learning.
Well, I've run out of things to ask you about. Did you ever think you'd ever hear that?
No, not from you. I never think I'd hear that. We got about 10 more minutes. I'd like to question Joe about something.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding.
Welcome to the Dave Gould Show. I'm happy to be a guest. Well, Dave, it's a pleasure. It's always been a pleasure to know you. You were always very kind. And by the way, fun fact for the viewers, you are the only person who's ever called me Joey who I've never corrected. Because you could arrest me for that, and I was always wary of that.
No, you're right. It's just like some other people. I always like to have they're not nicknames. They're just like an IE on the end or a Y on the end. It's just because that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
I get along with everybody, and I think everybody's a friend. And it's Joey, it's Petey, it's Billy, whatever it may be. It's an E.
Well, I appreciate it. Dave Gould, chairman of the Cuyahoga County Legislature, longtime member of the area. It's just great to see you again.
It's my thrill, Joey. Thank you very much.
Joey, there it is.
There it is. I had to close with that. You know that.
Yes, you did.
You brought it up.
We'll edit that out in post. Thanks for watching us.
Thank you, everyone.
Please, I'm talking. Join us for another edition of the Casual Conversation whenever I show up again.
All right.
I love that line. We'll edit that out in post.